Hello and welcome to Game On, and today is the fifth day of the ICC Champions Trophy 2017, the fifth match to be played between Bangladesh and Australia at the Kennington Oval on the same pitch which was used for the South Africa versus Sri Lanka match. So how it's going and what difference it is going to make, because we saw scores of 300 becoming quite normal in this Champions Trophy, unlike in the past. And Bangladesh, they are pepped up. They scored 305 against a formidable England outfit, and Tamim Iqbal in the runs get into that majestic 100, and of course Mushfiqur Rahim getting that 79 in 72 deliveries. Of course Australia charged up because they know that in case the weather interrupts or any untoward thing happens, they could be on the fringe, and they have come here to win the championship, as Steve Smith proclaimed before the start of this tournament. So we need to discuss the team balance. Australia likely to make a couple of changes. Moises Henrique may well be left out to bring in the right-arm leg break bowler Adam Zampa, who has been Australia's highest wicket taker in the shorter format in 2006. And of course Josh Hazlewood celebrating his haul of 6 wickets, 6 for 52 against New Zealand. Hazlewood has been the highest wicket taker for Australia outside Australia this year. So it makes Australian team quite competitive, but we shouldn't forget that Steve was not happy the way his bowlers bowled against New Zealand. So we need to dissect it in elaborate detail. We have with us the iconic and the screen savvy, the handsome looking and this with the handsome looking Ian Chappell. Why did when I said the handsome looking Ian Chappell?
I was laughing as well, Doctor. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
And when are you getting new glasses?
And we have with us the one and only, the king, Sir Isaac Vivian Alexander Richards, and today it seems that he is out to kill with this pocket square and a dashing looking tie. Good afternoon, sir.
I'm trying to match you.
Oh, pleasure is mine, sir.
You're sharp, you're sharp. Man.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
I'll take something away from this.
All right, and we have with us the princely, the handsome-looking Brian Charles Lara. Now, of course, always, as ever, clad in a beautiful suit and a pink pocket square. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dan.
So this is a cricket show.
Yeah.
It is a cricket show.
Not a fashion show.
The faster you get to the cricket, the better.
Okay, so in Australia, obviously, they're really not into it because they lost 1 point against New Zealand because of the weather interruption. And Bangladesh, they are not as simple as they used to be. They are not the pushovers. Obviously, Australia starts as a favorite. But Mashrafi Mortaza's pre-match statement, as compared to what his mindset was before playing England, is totally different now. Yeah. They are trying to recall what happened in the Bangladesh-Australia match in 2005 and how Bangladesh beat Australia at Darwin. So they think that they have the potential to actually give some tough time to the Australian team.
Yeah, you don't want to underestimate Bangladesh anymore. If people used to do that before. But the Australians, you know, there was a bit of a kick in the backside, and I see that the modern Australian fast bowler can read, because they read Steve Smith's comments, and apparently they bounced him in the nets. And you know, hey, you don't like our bowling? Hey, cop this. You know. So that's perhaps that was the intention of Steve Smith's comments, to get them fired up and get them ready to go. Yeah. You know, one thing I'd say about team selection, normally in these tournaments, Australia tend to pick the same side every game. Maybe because it didn't in that first one against New Zealand, they may make some changes. I'd be happy if they do bring in Zampa, because the Oval's a bigger ground and it's the ideal ground for a leg spinner to tempt batsmen to try and loft into the outfield. And Australia, as I said before, they've got a good pace attacker who can get early wickets, and then that's the ideal time to bring Zampa on. So I'd like to see Zampa in the lineup. It's just a matter of who they're going to leave out. I'd be surprised if they only gave Henriquez one go.
But then whom you are going to leave out?
Well,
because they also want Chris Lynn to play. as it was mentioned in the reports.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can only play 11.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't need another hitter. I mean, crikeys, they've got enough power hitting there. You've got Warner, you've got Finch, you've got Maxwell. There's plenty of power hitting there. I mean, even the ball, like Pat Cummins, he's a decent hitter. Hastings can hit the ball right. I certainly wouldn't be dropping Hastings. I think he's, particularly under English conditions, I think he's a valuable bowler, particularly in those in the middle overs where he can get you some wickets.
All right. Sir, so a word about Chris Lynn, because he has been phenomenal in T20 cricket, but he has to translate that and bring it to one-day internationals. So do you really think that there is a need for change, like Ian said, that they have plenty of power hitters, so why should they be beefing it up?
No, well, I totally agree with what Ian said in terms of there's no need for Chris Lynn at this stage.
Yeah.
I guess that Moses Enriquez deserves another chance. I myself would be looking in that particular direction. But when you look at the match today, even though one of my greatest mates is here, Ian, today, these are the sort of giant killing stuff we need to see today.
All right.
You know, I'm one of these guys who like to see that. I'd like to see a very competitive match.
Yeah.
And if there's going to be any giant killing, I would love to see it happen today, especially for a team like Bangladesh. And just the way they've been talking it up, believing that it can be done, achieve that.
And in the last year, though it has been mostly at their home ground, but they have beaten the top teams of the world.
Well,
so they have that knack now that they can win.
Yeah. Well, we all speak about maybe there's going to be some upset.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind seeing it today.
No, that may well be Pakistan beating South Africa.
Well, that's yet to come.
Australia do have a bit of trouble with left-arm orthodox spinners.
Yeah.
And, Shakib's
Yeah,
a
Shakib
decent
al
one of
Hasan,
those.
yes.
And we saw that graphic the other day of the averages against spin bowlers, second to last.
Yeah.
Actually, surprisingly, Bangladesh was
Yeah.
just below them.
Yeah.
But Australia was way down the list on that.
Yeah.
So I would have thought if Bangladesh look at those sort of stats, that should have an impact on the way they select their team.
Yeah, Shakib al Hasan is going to be there, and they are going to bring in their off spinner again, the man who really troubled England. That's Mehdi Hassan.
Yeah.
He's a youngster from under 19s, and he really took loads of wickets in the series, in the Test match series.
Well, it'd be a good game to play him against Australia.
Oh yeah. So Brian, how do you see this Bangladesh-Australia match in the truer perspective?
Obviously, Australia is under the pump to produce a victory. England is in a good position now where they just have to beat either Australia or New Zealand. Not saying that it's going to happen, but it's been simplified for them. Australia need to beat Bangladesh, and they need to beat them in an emphatic way to make sure that if there's any consideration for run rate, they would be in a good position. Sorry that I think Bangladesh is going to come under a lot of pressure in this particular match. I think that the Australians, with that little stumble that they had, even though they were lucky to get a point, they realized that they were short in some areas, and I expect them to come really hard against the Bangladesh team. I think picking a leg spinner is good. And one of the problems mentally with batsmen, sometimes if you're facing some out-and-out fast bowlers and some sort of spinner comes on, you feel that you're going to try to take advantage, and that could play into the hands of a Zampa in terms of getting wickets. So I would introduce him to the team. I think that if he's going to play bowlers, I think trying to, make room with getting rid of one of the batsmen, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's straight up for me, maybe Pat Cummins for Zampa, and that's it.
All right. And if you are talking about Zampa, Adam Zampa has been the most economical Australian bowler in the middle overs. And retrospectively, they regretted not playing him in the first match against New Zealand.
Yeah, well, it turned out to be a non-match. So, at the end of the day, they have the opportunity now to introduce him to the tournament, and hopefully he can take it from here.
Has he been a regular in the
Yeah,
ODIs itself?
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking that maybe he was just one of these T20 players, and when there are times you go at him, he's quite capable of getting wickets when you have a dash at him.
Yeah.
No, he was regular, and then suddenly they started to leave him out occasionally. I don't know what that's all about, because he's not on form because his form has been good. You know, he's a good competitive. He's a one-day cricketer or a short version cricketer more than a Test cricketer.
He hasn't played a Test match. He's played
No, he
22
hasn't.
one-day internationals.
He's better when batsmen are coming after him.
Yeah.
You know, if they're able to just pace themselves, not so good. But in the shorter forms of the game, he's been very successful, and he's got the ticker for the fight. You know, he doesn't mind blokes coming after him.
All right.
He'll get you a few runs, and he's decent in the field. He's a good cricketer.
But Ian, coming on to this predicament of the players, the ACA versus Cricket Australia, and we have recently, again, David Warner came out and gave a very stern warning that the Australian cricketers, these blokes, they won't be available after June 30th once the contract expires, and they may well be missing the Ashes unless until this thing is settled, the dispute is settled between them and the authority. And secondly, David Warner quite blunt, saying that he may well not be needing the financial, the financial hike, but he's standing for the players and for their cause.
Yeah. I'm delighted that the players are sticking firm because you've had a lot of situations between players and administrators where the elite players who are well looked after sort of say, well, I'm all right, Jack, you know, blow you. Whereas in this case, it's the elite players who are sticking up for the lesser players. So I'm delighted that the Players Association is sticking together. I don't know the ins. It would appear to me from the outside that the players are asking for about 25%, or what they've been getting in the past is about 25% of revenue. Now that doesn't sound unreasonable to me. When you're the players, and particularly the big name players, they're the ones who make sure that the game is on television.
Yeah, sure.
And big money comes in to the administration
Absolutely.
from that. Right?
Player is the main stakeholder.
Sure, yeah. They're also the people who ensure that people come to the ground. And probably most importantly, they're the people that the young kids see and idolise. And they either become a fan of the game of cricket or they become a player of the game of cricket. So that's all down to those players, and in particular the elite players. So knowing that, 25% doesn't sound unreasonable to me. And you know, I've said before, I've followed baseball, and in baseball there was a lot of head butting between the players' union and the owners for years, and there were a number of strikes. And eventually in 1994 it got to the ridiculous point where there was no World Series. And I think both sides suddenly woke up and thought, right, we may not love each other, but this has got to work as a partnership. And I'm hoping that that's what this episode will do with Australian cricket. They'll suddenly realise, look, this has got to be a partnership. We've got to work together to build this game, promote this game. And the important thing, I remember when I took over as captain, I said to our players, I said, the reason why we played the game, or in my case, was because I saw Miller and I read about O'Reilly and I read about Bradman. I saw Miller and Lindwall and Benno playing at the Adelaide Oval, and I wanted to, be like them. I wanted to play at the Adelaide Oval. I said, we've got to leave this a bit stronger than when we came in, so that the next generation of kids can look at us and say, we want to play this game.
Well, Ian, Viv, you want to add something?
I just wanted to add a little bit to that. Ian spoke about that they will sort it out at some point, because the Ashes is going to be in reckoning. And everyone knows how important series is. So I guess they will sort it out.
They will.
It will be sorted out.
Australia will not play a fifth grade team against England and just hand them the... Don't worry about that.
They will sort it out.
But Ian, one last question in this regard, because if we get down to the Australian history, when Sir Donald Bradman, obviously, and the man who had a cultural impact became part of Cricket Australia. So there were loads of victimization and such tales where there was a story of vengeance, and the players were being victimized, and he was like getting too stingy with the payments. Like Jeffrey Dimmock eventually broke into retirement because he couldn't withstand the pressure being a schoolmaster. So do you really see now this Cricket Australia and people like David Warner standing up and proclaiming so many things on behalf of ACA? Is it going to result in one or two top players being shunned down, or you have a proper systemized approach towards this issue.
See, the difference in the past was that if you were an individual who wasn't happy with what the board was doing and you spoke out,
Yeah.
then there was a black cross put against your
Absolutely,
name.
that's my question.
And all I was a number.
Yeah.
Okay, I batted at 3, so I was a number 3.
Yeah.
So, okay, black cross goes against number 3, wait till he fails a couple of times, get rid of him,
Yeah.
find another number 3. But now they're behind the firewall of the Players Association.
Okay.
So Cricket Australia, well, they know David Warner's speaking out because he's doing it publicly, and full credit to him to have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
But in general, they don't know who are the people who are unhappy.
Okay.
Because you're behind the firewall of the Players Association.
All right.
But this is a thing that's been ongoing in Australian cricket. I
Yeah.
mean, the board came into being in 1905. Then you had 1911, the Big Six.
Yeah.
I mean, my two in Australian cricket are Clem Hill,
Yeah.
who punched a board member,
Brian, I'm coming to you with this.
and Warwick Armstrong,
Yeah.
who had umpteen run-ins with the board and
Yeah.
won every one of them. The big ship. I love the big ship. He won every with the administrators. He was a beauty.
Okay, Brian, and coming on to the same problem, like we also face here in Pakistan, that the victimization becomes like a norm in case if some player tries standing up, and if he's not a favorite of the board. And we have seen plenty of West Indies, in the modern West Indies, where people like Darren Sammy and Dwayne Bravos, they have to suffer.
Brian
because
himself too.
Yeah?
Came under that.
Yeah, and Brian
umbrella.
himself. Yeah. So how do you see? Because do you really think that the players should be subjugated to the boards?
I think it's important that they try to build a relationship.
Yeah.
It's very important. And I was always very envious with our fights against the West Indies Cricket Board, and you look and you felt that Steve Waugh had a great relationship with the board, and the Australian team had a great relationship with the board. What was going on in England seemed to be fine. And why did we have problems all the time? And I felt that the board was being very, very unreasonable. We actually had a Players Association, and quite a few of our disagreements with the board, we had that Players Union to hide behind. Not hide behind, but speak for us. And a lot of the time as captain, you felt it in your direction, because as a captain, Viv, I'm not sure, I think you're technically a member of the board.
Yeah.
As the West Indies captain, and they felt that you should be more on their side than anything else. And I didn't see that way at all. If I felt that us players have a problem, we all had to stand together. I remember one particular issue where we had a cable and wireless contract, pre-existing contract, and the board came to me and said, yours is fine because it's long-standing, it's been there, but these 5 players, they will have to give up their contract. And I missed, we spoke about it, I missed that South African first test match because I felt that anybody who had a pre-existing contract had the right to keep it.
Yeah.
And all 6 of us were dropped for the first test, and it sorted itself out. But cricket boards and I suppose sporting bodies around the world could be difficult at sometimes.
No.
And
What's your experience, Awif?
Well, to be fair, I blunt
Yeah.
when it comes to dealing with my board.
Yeah.
I will say things to them. I can't remember you guys ever taking the field with me.
All right.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And there are times, Brian put it so mildly when he said that you victimize because of the decisions you make standing up for your players.
Yeah.
And I've always been a players person.
Okay.
I've always felt that the players are of much more importance to me
Yeah, of course.
than the members of the board.
Yeah.
Because they go out and they win things for you.
Yeah.
And in the end, if the board sees it, they would basically endorse the fact that we are the ones who perform, makes them look good.
Yeah. But
See, that's the point. As a captain,
Yeah.
I mean, why would they think that you're going to support the board and not the player? I mean, the players are the guys who are going to win the games for you.
Absolutely.
There's no board member going to win a game for you.
Yeah.
Most of the decisions they make cost you wins,
Yeah.
rather than.
But
yank
so
you
we've
wins.
now, what the next question in this regard when it comes to West Indies cricket, because it's really suffering. So what are the reasons that your board members, they haven't been able to employ the services of people like Gordon Greenidge, the Michael Holdings, and Sir Vivian Richards, and Brian Charles Lara. You have been the role models, and actually cricket after tourism was the major impact in the Caribbean. So what has gone wrong? What is the difference in the, what's
When
the
you
problem?
look, when you look at the board, the people who are in charge
Yeah,
at board level,
yeah.
these are individuals. There's a whole lot of dead ants, in my opinion. You know, people who are not willing to stand up and say anything.
Yeah.
They are in a position where everything is just nice and rosy.
Okay.
They're getting a nice salary.
Yeah.
Some of them hardly ever played the game to any particular standards.
Okay.
But what they do best
Yeah.
is that they rally around individuals who make decisions
Okay.
and who are decision makers, and just find themselves in this little position and just collect, in my opinion. And I couldn't give a damn who get angry or not.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you exactly like it is. It's some are in position to basically take care of their pensions.
Okay.
And that is why you see at present these guys who would do well
Yeah, right.
while West Indies cricket is catching hell.
Okay. You
All
want
right, for me, it's a simple situation. I'm very uneasy getting involved with a board that has the same mindset. I mean, as a player, I had major problems with the board, and I've seen former players going into the scenario where you felt that they've changed all of a sudden. I don't want to be that sort of person. If I'm going to get involved administratively or even on the ground level, with the player, I feel that everything's got to be on sound and working in the direction that benefits everybody, all stakeholders, which
Yeah.
is players, the board, the
yeah.
supporters, everybody around the West Indies, the sponsors, and that's not the case. So for me to jump in there for a paycheck is not something I'm going to do.
Okay.
Doc, doesn't it tell you something about the West Indies situation?
Yeah.
This fight's been going on for a long time, what, 15 years probably?
Almost 15, 16 years.
Yeah, right. This fight's been going on for 15 years, and in that period, West Indies cricket is going like that, and yet the administrators are still fighting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you think that at some point they'd be saying, hey, hang on, this is not helping West Indies. Why don't we just call a halt to this and try and work out how we're going to make West Indies cricket go that way instead of that way?
Yeah.
Wouldn't you
Especially
think?
when we have individuals who are in that administrative position, and I've always felt it. They think they are the personalities.
Yeah.
You know, you'd hear maybe a president would use words effect. I am the so-called face of West Indies cricket.
You can't be the
If
face.
you look at his face, you would see that.
On this, we take a break. Game on. We'll be right back with Brian Charles Lara, Sir Vivian Richards, and Ian Chappell. And Chapley is really enjoying Game On. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Game On. Now let's get to Bangladesh. Once it comes to Bangladesh, Pakistan had a major role to play, the Pakistan Cricket Board, to propagate club cricket in that country. They held them out with sending their own brand players like Zahir Abbas and Javed Mirdad, just to invigorate that passion of cricket there in Bangladesh. And Bangladesh took loads of time, but they eventually got into Test match cricket. And it is generally accepted that probably it was a premature entry for Bangladesh into international cricket. But they beat the bigger teams, they beat India, they beat Pakistan, so they actually won before they were given the status. How do you see their progress, number one, their progress, and number two, how would you correlate that generally it is understood that Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Bangladesh and India is the largest market in Asia, and then Bangladesh's cricket market is number two, ahead of Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So how do you see that, the interest of cricket being generated in that country, and how much it could impact the eventual results which Bangladesh players they are producing now?
Well, the first question, their improvement. It's taken a while, but there is seeing improvement. But I think to go to the next level, they've probably got to produce pitches, either produce them or be prepared to go to places where there's a bit more bounce in the pitches, because I think they need, obviously the batsmen need to be able to cope with the bounce. And I think they are coping better with it, probably because they're starting to play in, more
Different
regularly
leagues,
in different countries. But you know, to make big strides forward, you've got to, if you're touring the major countries, you really need good pace bowling, and that's the one thing they haven't really come up with. I think they need a couple of genuine pace bowlers, probably good wrist spinners. But I think one of the things that held them back for quite a while was they wouldn't challenge themselves, and you've got to put yourself in a position to try and win the game, meaning that you've got to be prepared to lose some games. But if you don't put yourself in that challenging position, then you're never going to improve. And captains have got to challenge players. I remember. Do you remember the Test series it was England versus India, and they had Ashley Giles bowling outside the stump to Tendulkar, and I thought this is rubbish, because you've got to find out if that bowler, in this case Ashley Giles, can challenge Tendulkar and can get him out. Okay, he might take some stick along the way, but can he get him out? I want to know, as a captain, can he do that? And if he can't, I want to then find somebody else. But that to me, that's where you've got to challenge players, and I don't think Bangladesh did that for a while, and I think that's where Mortaza has made a difference. I think he's challenged his players, so that's good. Fan interest is great, and having all of that, but it doesn't help you much out on the field. I mean, all this about the crowd will
but the money eventually would make a difference.
As long as it's ploughed back into the game and done properly. I mean, again, this producing pitches that are going to suit your home players, it's a false picture that you're painting.
All right.
Because you go from low, slow spinning things, and then you send those players off to Australia, like you're sending them to the execution.
But Ian, now if you could see, the behaviour of pitches in Australia has changed tremendously.
But there's still bounce.
All right.
And I mean, if you go to Australia, one thing they'll have some pace bowlers.
All right.
So if you're going to send guys who have been playing on pitches where the ball's bouncing knee high, and you're going to send them to Australia to face Pat Cummins and Mitchell Starc, as I say, you're sending them to the execution.
So how do you see Bangladesh progress, and how could they really break into the bigger league now?
All the sentiments taking what Ian would have said, but I've got another take. When you look at, in terms of the comparison you can make, something which is much closer to Brian and myself's heart, West Indies team. I look at their young batters, and I see that they are improving at a very rapid rate.
Okay.
I do not see that with the guys in the Caribbean.
Okay.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair.
You look at the talent that's around, and these guys are making progress. And as Ian says, they need to be playing on wickets at home that maybe would be conducive when they go abroad as well. It would be of great help. So at least you would have an idea when you get abroad what needs to be done. And you're not going to be sussed all the time when you go and play at home and you get results and the wickets are bouncing as low as your knees and things like that. When you go abroad, you're going to be sorted out.
But sir, do you really think that it is a matter of a skill enhancement, or they have changed their attitude and they have a belief now that they can win and they can progress?
Well, I'll tell you this, and it's one of my belief as well, because I used to take this stuff on board, where if you do have the ability and talent, and they certainly do, but at the end of the day, if they believe, that's a double package. And if they can bring that package with the fact that they can find a few guys, who can slip it around batsmen overseas ears, they're going to be a much better unit.
Yeah.
I think Mortaza has helped that belief factor a lot.
All right. So, bro, played against Bangladesh.
A couple times. Yeah.
So, how did you find them? Like, they used to concede, or they were like not really up to it, never challenged?
I feel it's not that they have better cricketers now. I think the mindset is a bit different. They had some decent cricketers back in there. I think you can say the same thing about Zimbabwe in time with the Flower brothers and Heat Streak. Zimbabwe was a very good unit, and then it went downhill. I think with Bangladesh, what I'm seeing is that they've got some good young cricketers who are willing to travel and try their best. Before it's just a matter of maybe they're just making a trip aboard, and they were happy to do that. But this team seems to have a little bit more fight. And I believe that you talk about the fact that they might be the second in terms of to India. They've got their T20 league as well, and they had quite a few players in it this year. I think they're going to improve. I think the love for cricket in Bangladesh is great. You got to get the youngsters through the system. The pitches, that's a true statement by these two gentlemen. I think it's great to have better pitches in the Caribbean. I wouldn't go back to the history of the people who came out to the Caribbean, but Guyana and Trinidad, there are a lot of spinners that came out of those islands. The pitches were suiting that kind of bowling. And then you got Barbados and Jamaica, where the pitches were a lot faster and bouncy. And then you had Michael Holding to deal with, or Malcolm Marshall in Barbados to deal with. And so it was a variety of pitches. And the same in Australia today. In Bangladesh, everything just seems to be like a road. The ball is not going to bounce over your knee, which is not good. You're going to have guys scoring runs, looking good. You're going to select them, and then they're going to be found wanting when they go abroad.
It's nice to defend home turf, but at the end of the day, when you go abroad, you should be able to make that adjustment.
Yeah, and you see, you should have enough faith in, I mean, if the administrators think it's a good thing to have these low pitches to help their team win at home, they're deluding themselves, because you're really not achieving anything. And as I say, you're sentencing them to a problem when they go overseas.
Could you see something similar with the series recently against Australia, where some of these wickets themselves, in terms of the way they deteriorated
India has been
quickly,
phenomenal at home,
it's some sort of a comparison. So when the Indians go abroad as well, they got to expect that there's going to be a few around their ears in a big way.
But if you remember the series against South Africa and India, the pitches were such that the dust was like splashing on the faces. They were underprepared, and like they were turning like hell.
But I'd say this, Viv, I mean, we went to India in '69, and they had Prasanna, they had Beatty, they had Chandrasekhar, and the pitches turned. But we all, the Australians, we all believed we could win because we could in bowling. Now you've got to have faith as a player that you give us whatever conditions you want, we can win. We believe we can win it, and that's why you have a balanced attack. You pick a balanced attack so that they can handle whatever conditions are there. So but now I'm talking the major cricketing countries. For a team like Bangladesh, the administrators have got to have enough faith in their players to say, look, we're going to produce good cricket wickets that give everybody, batsman, bowler, everybody a chance. And and that's the way they'll get better, not by giving them things that.
Just to let Ian know, I was born in '69.
But Brian,
so you weren't even at primary school when I
But Brian,
that's where the pups come in.
But Brian, coming on to this, like the Pakistan's case now, you saw their performance against India last night, and the wickets at home in first-class cricket, they're absolutely deplorable, and they're slow, low, and or they're underprepared, or they have green grass which suits the trundlers, not the real genuine bowlers. They're wettish, and so now it has started to reflect on Pakistan's performance. But we were still the #1 team, and we were winning at UAE. Do you really think that such numbers, they're going to help the future of teams playing on the home turf and winning and then going out? They were exposed in New Zealand. They were badly exposed in Australia.
This is Pakistan.
Pakistan.
Yeah, well, I mean, Pakistan always surprised me because, I mean, when I played against Pakistan, my first test matches, the pitches they had no grass. I mean, we did have Malcolm Marshall and Ian Bishop and these guys. I didn't know if that was the reason. But Pakistani fast bowlers, they used the room in the air. They came fast at you and pitched up a lot of the balls. They may surprise you. It always surprised me how much fast bowlers they produced, because I felt that Karachi was flat, Lahore was flat, and Multan is a road. And but over the years, with the guys like Wasim Akram, Waqi Yunus, Shoaib Akhtar, Imran Khan, now that everybody seems to be playing fast bowling pretty well, their batsmen are the ones who are struggling.
Not too sure about that.
Imran always used to tell me that there were they had fast and bouncy pitches in Pakistan. It depended on what time of the year you
Yeah,
played.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
at Sialkot, and they were like quite good pitches.
Yeah.
But this is why you find guys from the subcontinent do so well in terms of the things they do with the ball in the air.
Yeah.
Because they don't get it off the track.
Yeah.
You know, they're so slow.
But now the ball, it's not reversing as much as it used to be. So probably something to do with the technology. Okay, Tamim
Exactly.
Iqbal, how do you see Tamim's? Tamim could be an X factor for Bangladesh in this all-important match against Australia.
I think that what he's going to face and come up against in terms of Mitchell Stark and Hazelwood, yes.
Yeah, Josh
I think they're a little bit better than the two English bowlers that opened the bowling in their first match. I think he's going to struggle. The batsman that I liked was the wicketkeeper, Mushrafik.
Yeah.
He played,
Mushfiqur Rahim.
yeah, he played very, very well. He's a lot more accomplished and at the crease for his 70-odd runs, and I feel that he'll be their main batsman today.
But we don't have to miss out Shakib Al Hasan, though he hasn't been in much runs since September 2016. But Shakib probably is Bangladesh players competing with the rest of the world. It's a,
So here you have one of these guys, you know, who would been in a team with the so-called minors before, or the minnows before. He's highly rated.
Yeah.
When it comes to the one-day level, at the one-day level,
Yeah.
he's pretty much up there. So that gives you some sort of indication of the improvement that that country would have made in itself, and people like Shakib.
And why do the top teams at times they lose against minnows and rookies? What happens? Is it overconfidence, or is it a matter of pressure?
They're a thing called human beings, Doc. You know, they're not machines,
No,
Doc.
no, it happens. It happens, you know, and we haven't seen anything of that particular nature as yet.
Yeah.
It's something, and I just
Just right wrong.
venting.
What did you make against Ireland? You weren't in the team, but what they make?
I made some like
29 or 59 or...
what you heard the story that went down there. That, apparently the guys got them on
The
the
Guinness
black
factory,
the
I
black
think.
gold.
Guinness factory.
Yeah,
I
the
think,
factory,
yeah,
and
yeah.
guys never had anything like that. The Guinness that they used to send at home was so-called like baby sham, you know, for babies. They really got there, and one of the guys did say to me that all guys they indulge.
I think the batting order was a bit of an indication
be, yeah.
as well. Yeah. I think Kanai was 9 and so was 10, I think. Yeah. But, I mean, Australia in 64 lost to Holland.
Yeah.
In 7 away to the World Cup, lost to, we didn't even lose to Ontario.
Yeah.
We lost to Ontario. Was it curling cricket
Yeah,
club,
curling
curling
cricket
and
club.
skating and all that? Yeah. And I mean, Australia lost to Bangladesh 2005. It happens, mate.
It happens.
It happens. Yeah.
Let's enjoy Tamim Iqbal scoring that 100.
Roy
Right,
Federer.
Fredo,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
You certainly square drove like Fredo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard
Okay.
boy Russell.
So now, how do you see? Again, you say the toss doesn't make any difference, but once it comes to teams like Bangladesh meeting Australia, is it going to be important to bat first, post some runs, and then try your luck, or what?
I'm not saying that Australia may not roll them over.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Australia, they are in a very dicey position. And sometimes nerves does play part, because when you're uneasy and you're expecting so many things to happen at the same time, especially with Australia just on the one point, you never know.
Yeah, but the weather forecast again for the evening is a little tricky.
Yeah.
Rain could come, so that could hurt Australia back.
Yeah. Now, what I'm saying is you can't afford to let it affect your mentality. I'm not saying that it doesn't affect teams' mentality, but you really shouldn't let it. I mean, because you're going to lose some tosses,
Yeah.
and you're going to be doing what what you wouldn't necessarily like to do first. But whatever you do first, you've got to do it well. I think Australia now in the situation they're in, they send Bangladesh in if they win the come at them, and then know exactly how many they've got to chase. If there is rain around, that's an advantage. Also, the other advantage, if it doesn't, knowing how many you've got to chase,
All right.
you can then time your run, because, as Viv said, they need to be aware of the net run rate to keep that right up there. So if you know exactly what you've got to get, then you can time your run rate so that you get it a few overs early and keep your run rate.
Yeah. So whether you agree with
Everything.
yeah.
Hey, this is a cricketer. This is a guy who knows his stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate enough to have, or unfortunate in some cases,
But we heard
to
he
have toured England, to have toured Australia in 1975, 76.
Yeah.
Uh,
But we have heard that he used to deliberately ask Jeffrey Thompson to bowl short at you.
I didn't mind that.
Yeah, you
I
don't
didn't
mind that.
What
I
do you
didn't mind at all.
I might look like an idiot.
I didn't mind that at all because to be fair, you know, the Australians were aggressive guys, and
Yeah.
I've always felt as well that if you can aggression also, you know, and I was up for the challenge.
Yeah.
And just to put the record straight, Doc,
You were not
there
the
was
captain.
Gregory Stephen Chappell was the
Yeah,
captain.
you were
in
not the
76.
captain. I know it's and if you could see Mushfiqur Rahim, he actually impressed Brian the other day the way he batted.
Shakib,
Yeah.
all these guys have to make a big contribution. They have to see this as a virtual. If they don't win, they're out the tournament.
Yeah. But they have a couple of nice batsmen, like Mahmudullah is now quite seasoned. He has scored against the top teams and the better bowling attacks. Then they have Sabir Hussain. So
Which is the Rahman fellow as well, in the middle of the order, Abdul Rahman.
no, he's no more in the.
He didn't get picked.
No, he didn't.
Okay,
get it,
okay.
yeah. So now it's time. You want to win an EcoStar 32 inches LED. You have the suitcase.
I don't know any cricket before 1970. So
Oh,
it's about
I thought
Okay.
you were a great student.
So it's time. It's time for our EcoStar segment. We'll be right back. So, time for the question, and the question of the day for you is that how many runs did Ian Chappell get in the 6th Ashes Test in 1971? So the question is very simple. How many runs did Ian Chappell get in the 6th Ashes Test in 1971? Brian knows it. I'm not going to ask him. So the telephone number is 051 926 5315. I repeat the telephone number 051 926 5315. You could call and you can win a 32-inch LED screen. They say that watch matches on EcoStar screen, you feel like being a cricketer. So
I've got a question for you, Doc. Which test are you classing as the 6th test match?
because there was a 7th one as
There
well.
was, yes.
So I'm talking about the 6th, not the 7th, because now they officially write 7 test matches for that
Yeah,
Ashes
yes,
series.
yeah.
And Jon Snow being canned by the spectators.
Right. So the 7th was in Sydney.
Yeah,
6th was in Melbourne.
Melbourne.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So now you know that how many did you get?
No guarantee.
Okay, so we wait for your answers. Before we take a short break, Ian, now do you really see the Australian bowlers, because they were reprimanded by their captain, do you really see them now just getting their act together and just get back to Ian and say, look, now we could do it, mate?
Yeah, I think it was a calculated move by Steve Smith.
Okay.
I'd have to be a braver man than I, because there's no way I'm going to castigate Dennis and Jeff Thompson, because they would have beaten me up. But yes, I think it was a calculated move to have them ready to fire. And I think, and it may be a mistake, but I suspect that Australia are going to come and give Bangladesh quite a bit of short stuff, because they'll feel that they won't be able to cope with that as well. That may be a reason that would count against Zampa playing if they're deciding to really go after Bangladesh. But sure, I think it was a calculated move by Steve Smith to rev them up.
All right. So, sir, do you think that batting first for teams like Bangladesh, it helps them or it helps their cause, or like trying to chase around and once the target has been set?
What I think would be important for them is, especially if the weather is going to be a little bit dicey, is for them to put the Australians in.
All right.
You know, and basically lead from the front and see how the Australians handle that, rather than have it the other way around.
Yeah. And get 450
And
pasted.
if they can do that, well, you never know.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends. But the toss may have a huge part.
Yeah.
You know, if Australia wins the toss, I believe, as Ian said earlier, that they're going to have a go at the Bangladeshi players. And if they include Patterson, which means the tempo is going to be up, and there's going to be some fiery stuff.
All right. So, Brian, how do you see this toss factor in Bangladesh?
Well, I believe that Australia should send Bangladesh in to see if they can shorten the game, because if there's bad weather coming in the afternoon, then they need to make sure
It's
and
in
get,
the evening,
yeah,
so you're
get a
absolutely
victory.
right.
And as an opposing captain in Mortaza's situation, you said the Australians going to think about doing that. I'd want to do the exact opposite. So Viv is right. I will get the Australians in. If they make 400, then the rain might come and save.
So the rain could be the man of the match. But David Warner has never been in the runs in one-day cricket in England. And he didn't get much the other day against New Zealand, though that was a different situation altogether, that they had to keep in view the weather. How do you see David Warner now panning out in this tournament in the ICC Champions Trophy? Because now they're left to play against England after this match. So how do you see that?
I think he's going to be a key player. Starting this particular match against Bangladesh, and I don't know why he hasn't scored much runs, but I feel that he's going to be one of the top players come to the end of the tournament. As you know, I have Australia going all the way, and they're going to be banking on him to play a big part. So I think the Bangladesh bowlers will have to be very wary of him in the 50 overs they're bowling.
Right.
Two things about Warner in this game. He's a smart cricketer, and some of the comments he's made about his own batting, where he went too hard, he works out things pretty quickly.
Okay.
He's very interesting to talk to about batting, and understands it, and he understands his game. So, he's now aware of what he's got to stop himself from doing. So he's aware of that. And with this thing building up between the ACA and Cricket Australia,
that's my second point.
I think he will be looking upon that, particularly when you're prepared as he is. He knows, okay, if I'm prepared to speak out, I've also got to do it with the bat. And I think that'll be motivation for him to really get his head down and get on with it.
And that he mentioned in his statement that ACA and Cricket Australia thing is not going to impact how Australia plays in this ICC Champions Trophy. They're here to
took
win.
the word out of my mouth. I was going to basically say the same thing, that so long as he gets his negotiation factors out of the way, or why couldn't they have done it a little sooner? So which means minds would be settled and everything like that, because David Warner, he's a very potent player for any team.
So do you see Warner threatening Bangladesh more, or people like Aaron Finch?
Well, as Ian said, he needs to come to the party as well.
Yeah.
Aaron Finch needs to come to the party. David Warner would be aware of all the stuff that's going on. As Ian said, he's a guy who basically worked things out. And when you can come in the media and explain the things where you went wrong, that I think it's an individual who has plans for the future. So Bangladesh better be aware.
He's got the best chance because he's opening the batting. The number one and number two got the best chance of being the highest scorers in the innings.
But in teams like Pakistan,
Because they're guaranteed to get a hit.
Pakistan number 5, 6 and 7, they have the best chance.
No, number 1 and 2 have got the best chance because they're guaranteed a hit.
So we have to wrap it up, Ian, and so you are sure that Australia is just going to maul Bangladesh and move on?
I don't say more of them, but I mean, they won't be underestimating them, they won't be overconfident, but they'll be very determined to win it convincingly.
But Moshrafi has reminded them of the 2005 thing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Don't worry, they'll know about that.
They know about that. So how do you think this match
I hope
going out?
it's a very good match. And as I said, it's Bangladesh, they're up-and-coming nation at this particular level. And every now and again, I'd like to see the big boys go down. Every now and again. And I don't know whether it's going to happen tonight.
So, today please come up and say that you are going to support Bangladesh. And,
Well, you know what? Surprise to these guys. I think that I've supported 3 losers so far, only because I actually wanted to see a good game. I think it was the opening match for each team, and they had performed well. Bangladesh didn't do well. Sri Lanka, nor Pakistan. Now that I've seen them play, I believe that the only game that Pakistan
Bangladesh played of the
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
losers.
they're not gonna compete against Australia nor New Zealand. I think the best chance obviously Sri Lanka and Pakistan have is when they play against each other, and of course hopefully they will have a winner then.
Well, Faria Kamarji, congratulations. You have won this this LED 32 inches LED being given by EchoStar, and I will tell you after announcing the other gentleman's name. I'm Abdul Manan from Gujranwala. So Abdul Manan from Gujranwala and Faria Kama from Toba Tek Singh, you are the winners, and Ian got 100 in the second innings of that test match.
Ever played in Gujranwala?
No, I haven't. No. I never played in Pakistan.
But
Didn't play in Pakistan.
Never, wow.
But Viv did, and it was one
Yeah.
of the one-day internationals. It was completely dark, and Javed Mirdad was not giving up. And Patrick Patterson started to bowl the beamers. The street lamps were on.
No, but did it Beamers?
I mean,
it hit the deck before. I think.
but the match was eventually abandoned.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
had to be abandoned. Thank you very much, Ian, for being with us, and thank you very much, sir. It's always a pleasure. You look dashing today, and you just outsmarted Brian.
keep on saying these sweet things.
Yeah, you outsmarted Brian.
No,
Thank you, Brian. And it's always fun with you. And game on hai. We are not going away. We'll take a break. These gentlemen will part, and we'll have our Desi game on hai starting at sharp 4 o'clock. Stay tuned to PTV Sports. Keep on enjoying the real flavor of international cricket on this 24/7 specialized channel.